Hi, and welcome to this demo and overview of Rocketlane and the Rocketlane onboarding platform. We're really excited about the potential for what this can do to your business. But before we jump into the details and go over each module, we want to talk about why we think this is so impactful for companies. Onboarding is the very first time your customer partners with you after they sign the contract and buy. So your professional services team or implementation team really is the first impression your customer has of you as a customer. And you want that to be a great experience. You want people to walk away from that very glad that they partnered with your business. So the goal of Rocket Lane is to make sure that you look fantastic, that you look professional, that your customers are always kept into the loop of what you expect from them, what the next step will be. And most of all, they want to make sure that the project moves fast so that your customers get value as quickly as possible. And we do that by helping you partner with your customers. You get your team to know exactly what step to do for each and every implementation, even if it's a little different than your normal. And you make sure that a customer always knows when the ball's in their court and you're waiting on them. This builds trust. This makes sure that your customers believe they can depend on you. And it makes sure that the first partnership you ever have goes really, really well. So let's start with our project screen. This is really a 30,000-foot overview of exactly what you're going to see with every single one of your projects. Here you can see every project you've got going with every single customer, even if you have multiple projects per customer or dozens and dozens of customers that you're working with at any one time. You can see the name of the project, the name of the customer, and here you can see who's assigned to it, the status it's in, the phase that we've reached. You can see the progress, how many tasks have been completed and how many are still waiting. You can even get a breakdown into each of the phases and where each of those phases are at and what's next with each of them. We've also got a mathematical algorithm here that will tell you whether we think you're on time for this project or maybe whether you're running a little bit late, not just based on the number of tasks, but also how long you've budgeted for each of those tasks and what dependencies you've got. If you're using status updates, which we'll talk about a little bit later, you can check in on your last five status updates here. Did you report to the customer that everything was going well, or did you have some bad news for them? And you can get an overview. You can see how many hours your team's logged on each of these projects to know what's taking up so much time. You can see the owner, and then you've got a whole bunch of fields that you can bring in from outside sources like your CRM or your customer success platform that will tell you how much is this customer spending with your business? How much did they pay for this project fee? This will make sure you've got everything you need to prioritize your projects and know exactly where they are on each step. We've also got a really simple customer feedback module, and you can get that data from this overview page as well. Customer feedback, we believe, should be easy to give. It's a 1 to 5 star module that just really quick lets you know exactly how your customer feels. Now, most of us are getting customer feedback or customer satisfaction scores at the end of the onboarding process. We believe you should be getting it at every important milestone throughout the onboarding. And so we let you get feedback easily along the way so you can correct problems before they become too serious. And this overview will show you what's the overall rating for each project and what's the last score that they gave you. It'll also give you a comparative of why some of your CSMs might be scoring higher than others, or why a certain step in your onboarding process is consistently really delightful to your customers, or maybe not so delightful. So you can know what part of the process you need to focus on and which part isn't building that trust with your customers. The other thing that adding customer satisfaction checkpoints to your project does is it really places an emphasis on your team for what's most important. If they know that the customer is going to give feedback right after a step, that becomes a step that everyone knows we just have to get right. So yeah, this is the overview for all of your projects, and it's a 30,000-foot view of everything you've got going on. It's really valuable for leadership or anyone who needs to get a general pulse on the business. The name of the game here is flexibility and customization. To make sure that leadership has every view they need, it's almost limitless how many fields you can add and bring into this to make sure that you have everything you need. So now let's transition to looking inside of a single project. In other words, what's going on with one project we're working on with just one customer. So to do that, you just simply easily click on one of these projects, and that'll bring you inside the project plan. This is the project plan. It tells you every step you've got going on for the project. Now, the first thing to notice is that some of these steps are yellow and some are white. And throughout Rocketlane, there's a theme that anything that's yellow is private to just your team. This is where you'd put anything you're working on that you don't necessarily want to let the customer know about. Maybe you're trying to scramble to recover for a bug, or maybe the team's behind and you need to get them back on track. Anything there can be made private and it shows up here in yellow. Anything in white gets shared with the customer in the customer portal or customer view that we're going to show you in a little bit. If you want to share where things are going with your customer, this is presentation mode. Now, presentation mode is a really clean look at the project plan that you can click through exactly like it was a PowerPoint or Google Slides deck. And of course, anything that you make private, that won't show up here so that, of course, you don't give away anything that you're trying to hold within your team, but it will show every step and give them a real clear view of where you're at and which step is a milestone, what's due from your team, what's due from their team. And it's a great way to prevent your team from having to build decks before every time they meet with the customer. You can also switch to this timeline view, which will give you a graphic representation of each and every step, how long it's going to take, which ones are dependent on others. But this view isn't just for looking nice. It also is a really easy to view to help you manipulate what's going on. If the project gets delayed, you can just grab a task, drag it out, make it longer, and all of the subsequent tasks or the dependent tasks will shift with it and will adjust so that when one task gets off track, you don't have to adjust every single task. You can add milestones, dependencies, and really this is kind of the nerve center of the project when you want to work with it and adapt it when you've got to adjust in flight. This also helps you again show exactly where you're at and what steps took longer so you can hold your team and your customer accountable. You can point to the key milestones in the journey. The next page we're going to look at is the overview page. The overview page really just gives you everything that's going on. It's like the dashboard for your project. It'll show you exactly what tasks are overdue or any tasks that might be at risk, those that you've completed, or any that might be blocked. It also gives you a lot of data that again can be brought in from your CRM or any integration that we're doing, a Jira integration, an integration with your CS platform, and all of that flowing in as relates to this project can be brought into this section here. Including business goals and all of the information you want. This really is, again, another valuable place for someone leading a project to understand exactly where things are at, or a leader who needs to check in on how the onboarding is going for a customer will get a really good sense of the exact state of this project without necessarily having to bother and interrupt an implementation manager that might be hard at work. So let's skip over to that second side of Rocketlane that we mentioned that existed, the customer facing side. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that the customer facing side has a lot of the same information as the side that your team, the internal team, would use, but that it's presented in a very simple, straightforward way. The goal here is to let the customer know exactly what's going on and nothing else that they don't need to know. So you've again got the project plan, and you can also show an overview of the project, much the same as your internal team. But of course, anything in yellow won't show up here, and only those you want shared with the customer. You've also got a place where the customer can see all the chats that have gone on the project between you and them. Now, internally, as you switch over to that side, you can also see all of the chats. We're really proud of how we've organized our chats. First of all, you can have a chat that is pertaining to just one project or one stage of the project or one task on the project. So on the task, you can have conversations internally that might be in yellow or with the customer, letting them know where you're at or what you need from them or clarification that might be needed. And just like all your favorite messaging applications, we've got all the features you've come to expect: reactions, emojis, at mentioning people, routing it to a teammate. It really allows you to centralize communication in one spot and not make your customer go different ways. The other thing we've built that we're really proud of is you can do a single at mention. You can do a single at mention to mention a person. A double app mention brings up a task, and a triple app mention will bring up a resource. So I can send a message that says, "Hey, Shri, I need help getting the onboarding meeting scheduled. Please reference this agenda." You also can get notifications sent via email to your customers anytime the chat comes up or there's something you need them to respond to. If you use that feature and have someone mentioned, you can click on the person to go to their profile, or click on the task to be drawn immediately to that task, or click on the resource to be lent to that document. This is a great way to keep everyone on the same page as to what's going on with the task. Jumping back into the customer side, you've got a list view of all the tasks. So if they want to see just everything that everyone's got to do, yourself, them, maybe tasks that you're working on together, everything is listed here. And of course, you can sort it, you can filter it. You've also got status updates, and we'll show you how those work a little bit later. But in here, they can see it at exactly every point where they checked in, maybe weekly or monthly, what tasks were completed, what tasks were behind, where were we at, what were the dependencies. You can create these using templates, and then you can modify those templates to make sure that it fits exactly what you want to share with that customer in that week. But also you can let the templates go out just exactly how they are for maybe a smaller customer that you don't want to dedicate a ton of time to updating them every single week. Once you publish a status update, it goes out to that customer and they're kept in the loop in their inbox of exactly what's going on. Now, back to the internal side, you've also got a list view of all of the tasks. So you can look at what's due by person. You can group them by project. You can do a bulk update. So you can mark a bunch of tasks behind or done or change who they're assigned to. You can filter them. You can reassign them. You've got everything all here to make sure you can manage every task that your teams work looking at. So you've also got these tasks that have the little nice looking header. Um, those are forms. And we have the concept of forms because we know that throughout an onboarding project, you always need to be collecting data from your customer. And the best way to do that is in a form. So you could be collecting integration data you need from them, or maybe login credentials, users that you might need, anything the customer needs to give you that can be typed out and doesn't necessarily need to be explained, can be gathered through these forms. These forms also can lead to automation. So you can have your customer fill out a migration request, and that will create a task at a specific phase when they fill it out. Um, so you can update projects, you can update everything based on the values that your customer does in the forms that they fill out for you. So now let's jump back over to what the customer size sees. They can see all of the status updates that we mentioned, and they can also see the form responses, everything they answered, so they can know exactly where you're getting all the information from, or change it if need be. They can look at all of the documents that you've attached. These can be PDFs that you can mark up together if you're doing creative collaboration, or any other type of document that you need to work on together. And since these are native in Rocketlane, you can have a new template filled out for every project that you spin up. You can annotate and mark up each and every one of those and see a history of the changes that happen within a document. You've also got spaces. Spaces you can think of more like a drive. It's a place for third party documents to be shared together. And all of these documents can be templatized too, so that if your customer falls into one of your categories like mid-market or enterprise, the discovery questions on a discovery questionnaire can have different questions, or they can be pre-populated with different answers depending on who they are. You can upload external documents like a Google Slide to make sure that it's always there and the customer never has to go back and search through email. Calendly links. How many times have we sent Calendly links over and over to a customer, and every time they've got to go look for them and find them? What if the link was always in their customer portal waiting for them whenever they need it, ready to go, so you never have to send it again and they never have to wait to schedule that next meeting with you? You've also got uh, within shared spaces, you've got the concept of training material. You can embed a Miro board, and it works great in here. You can zoom in on each and every part of the diagram or zoom out. This will really let you diagram and plan out processes with your customers. One of the things our customers love the most is a meeting notes template. So you can put a template in here for a standard meeting, so that every single time you don't have to come up with a new notes template, but can just populate the exact same things you do every time you meet with a customer. Saves you a lot of time and manual process in trying to run those weekly check-ins that we all have with our customers. The automations we built here are also very powerful. If during your meeting notes you uncover a new task that needs to be done, you can add it as a new task in the meeting notes, and that'll automatically add that task, including who it's assigned to and when it needs to be done, into the project plan. So instead of taking notes and then transferring those notes later, the notes themselves actually update the project to make sure everyone's kept on the same page. Many of our customers might use Slack, and unique to Rocketlane is our Slack integration, where your customers can connect this customer portal to their Slack instance and be notified of absolutely everything that happens, what's due for them, and they can even take actions on the tasks that they're notified of right in Slack. So they get notified that they need to give certain data. They can type that data into it, and it'll mark the task as done and transfer the data and get it to your team. Now, this might be even a little bit too much, all of this for the customer. So you can customize the customer portal using these options to add or remove many of the options, making it as simple or as powerful as you think each of your individual customers will deserve. It can be set up at a template level for all your types of customers, or it can be customized individually. Now, going back into the company side, you've also got a task list. This is kind of like your days, rather a task template that has everything you need for the day. What's upcoming for you? What's overdue? What's been assigned to you? What tasks you've been mentioned on? Everything you need. This is where we picture your team coming in, jumping in and knowing exactly what they're behind of. And of course, all of these can be filtered, grouped, sorted by the customer, by the due date, by the project, so that they have an easy way to get to everything they need. You can save views and share views and make sure everyone's looking at it exactly the way that it will be best. Now, I mentioned earlier some of our integrations, and we've got a beautiful Jira integration that can automatically create Jira tickets right from Rocketlane. And it's a two-way sync, so that as things get updated or completed by your technical team, that can be brought immediately into Rocketlane. So no wondering if the project's done or waiting after it's done, not knowing. You'll be notified immediately upon it being completed. You've of course got your own Slack integration where you can into a single channel or into multiple channels keep you and your team exactly updated on all the projects that they're working on and that are in progress for them. The next feature I want to show you are our dashboards, and we have a really wide variety of powerful out of the box dashboards that will show you who's on task, who's behind, who has the most tasks assigned to them, and who might have spare bandwidth to get stuff done. You can of course build your own custom modules within the dashboard, your own custom reports if you want to slice and dice your data a new way. Of course, we mentioned our CSAT tool, and we've got reporting around CSAT to know which of your people are getting the best CSAT scores, or which projects or which stages are getting scores. We can know which type of task or which group of tasks are taking longer than expected and which of them are getting done on time. We can also check in on each of the different phases within a template or the projects within those phases, the tasks within those phases. We also have the powerful concept of templates. Templates are a standard onboarding or project, customer facing project that you create beforehand and then can be spun up each and every time you land another customer that needs to be onboarded a certain way. We've also got templates for the status updates, document templates, and project templates. And they're all very, very powerful and save your team a lot of time ensuring that they're never wondering what steps to take on this project. And we can go into each of those if you want to talk to the team specifically. You're able to really craft the project template to be exactly what you want. And the project template can have placeholders so that you know that a CS person is needed, or a professional services person, or a technical person. And then when the project's created, you assign that individual. You can pre-populate Jira tickets. And you can also know exactly like what time is expected from this project. Billable hours, non-billable hours, and exactly how that project should be run. We also have the concept of dynamic templates, which allows you to have certain conditions on a project depending on who that project is. So let's pretend you've got customers in Europe. You might have a section of your onboarding template that relates to GDPR, and it will only appear when your CRM indicates that the customer is in the United States. Or maybe you've got a different onboarding template for enterprise versus mid-market customers. It'll customize that depending on what your Salesforce or your HubSpot integration says, what category you put that customer in. This allows you to not have so many different templates if only a few things are different for certain types of your customers. We've also built a really comprehensive resource management capabilities. That'll allow you to see which of your team is fully utilized and which of them might have more bandwidth to work on. We've got time tracking so they can log the hours on a task that they want to log to, or just on a project. You can search through the resource planning template to find who's got availability, which people in which role have availability on a certain date, and thus know who you need to assign to each project. You can find people, assign them right here in the resource management module to make sure you've got everyone on the right task at the right time. You also can see how many hours are available or how much they're utilized. Um, you can also forecast your demand across different projects and know from the template which projects are going to take how much time and how much you have to budget. Maybe you need to make a hire to do that. Here you can see a lot of our time tracking capabilities where, like I said, time can be logged at a project level, at a template level, or at a task level. You can keep track of this here. So this is Rocketlane. We're really, really proud. And if you've got a second, we'd love to meet with you and show you through the product. Thanks for the time.